Superintendent of the Faribault Public Schools, Todd Sesker, to join us this morning. You might recall he was going to be with us last week, but we were at the Steele County Free Fair in Owatonna. He could have popped down there, but I don't know that we necessarily had to do that. And so he's with us today. Todd, good morning.
Good morning, Gordy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate your joining us. There are a number of things we need to cover because school is just around the corner.
It's coming. Teachers will be here next Monday.
You can hardly wait, I'll bet.
Yeah, we can. We have new teachers coming Thursday and Friday, and our entire staff will be at our school next Monday at the high school at the PAC next Monday at 7:30, 8 o'clock.
What happens there?
That's where our workshop begins, and so we have a really nice agenda on tap for that day for our staff. We have some good training. We have this a gentleman by the name of Carl Hooker that's coming in. He's a nationally renowned speaker. He does a lot of speaking on how technology has really become a necessity for kids in the classroom and how that is benefiting kids throughout their careers. So, and he puts a nice sense of humor twist on it for the teachers and shows them how they can integrate those different technology tools with their class.
And this year you're implementing the iPads, right?
We are, and last week was a big week for us. We rolled out our iPads. We had training, we had videos, we had our insurance collectors, all different things happening, and we distributed almost 2,000 iPads to kids grades 6 through 12. So parents and kids are pretty excited when they walk out the door.
So what happens through grade 5?
Grades K through 5. K through 3, they get about 5 iPads in the classroom, and then grades 4 and 5, they have probably 8 or 10 iPads in the classroom that we just keep there.
Is the plan in the future to include those folks too?
You know, we've done a lot of research, and of course we're not the first school district to do this, and the studies are showing that the one-to-ones are most effective in grades 6 through 12. So we're just going to kind of wait and see how we implement the iPads in grades K-5.
I'll bet the kids are pretty excited then.
They are excited, and it was pretty cool when I went in there and watched. I tried to stay away because every time I tried to do something I would mess something up. But I watched the kids show how other kids how to use the iPads, and it's pretty cool because you can tell the kids who had the iPads, who've had the technology before, and when they sat down they picked it up really quickly. And the kids that haven't had it, it took a little while to get through. So right there, that tells me we have an unequal playing field. And by getting these iPads out, it's a tool for technology. It's not going to replace any teacher or any type of functionality that they're doing. It's just going to enhance the classrooms that they have, and hopefully level the playing field for the kids who can't afford to have those different tools.
And in theory should lower your need for books.
It is, and we already have a couple of courses, a couple of curriculum areas that are not going to be using textbooks. They're going to be using they're online textbooks, I guess, but they're not textbooks they have to carry in a backpack. So that's going to be exciting. Over the next few years we want to gradually I would like to eliminate all textbooks. I know that's not possible right away, and it's tough to change that culture, but we're getting there. We're going to eliminate a few of them.
But give me an example. What kind of a cost factor is a textbook?
The cost of it, well, I can give you my own relationship in college because my daughter just went through college. A chemistry textbook, brand new right now, is $450 at college. That's one book. That's one book, and we were able to purchase the online book for $250. So it's a savings of almost 50%. And it's not quite like that in the K-12 yet. A typical textbook probably costs $110, $120. The online curriculum is maybe $90 to $100. So it's not a huge difference, but there's still savings.
Yeah, and every little bit helps.
Every little bit helps, and the accessibility, the kids want to do this too. They want to turn their assignments online. They want to bring their devices and do the assignments online. It really does, it will make a big difference for us.
I would think so. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It was fun. It was a fun week last week.
And, you know, being in school your whole life, because that's your job, you probably like school.
Right. And
unlike some of us who, we're not big fan. I mean, we did okay in school, but I couldn't sit still for that many hours.
Well, I probably was in the same boat. I wasn't real good at sitting still either. I think that we have a lot of other opportunities for kids that, like you and I would have been probably a little bit more happy in our school setting now than we were back
Yeah, I think
in the
so
early
too,
80s.
because they don't just sit around for hours on end.
They don't. In fact, we just passed a policy that said all the classes have to have some sort of exercise routine within their classroom, where it could be stand up, it could be a brain exercise, whatever it has to be. but each of the classrooms have to give some sort of a physical activity so that those kids can get some of that
Stretching,
the exercise,
running
stretching,
in place just to
anything
get
like
your
that.
blood flowing,
Yep,
kind of thing.
yep, something during the week they have to do that, so that's pretty cool.
Great idea. Superintendent of the Faribault Public Schools, we're visiting today about, well, the start of school, which in the Faribault Public School District is after Labor Day, right?
Right, yep, September 8th is our first day for kids.
A number of school districts, I saw a third of the districts in the state opted to go before Labor Day.
They did, and you do have to send an application to the commissioner to get approval for that. Most of the time it's a construction project, or sometimes it's a little bit of a stretch. But we really didn't have a huge need to do that. So we're not coordinating classes, or we're actually doing a construction project, but it's not going to interfere on our first day.
Yeah, tell us about how that's going, the construction project. This is for the district office, right?
Two. We have the district office and we have the Faribault Education Center. The Faribault Education Center will be on the south side of the high school, and MetCon has that contract. And the district office will be on the south side of the middle school, and Schwab from out of Rochester and Winona will have that contract. So things are going very well.
Are they on target to be ready for school?
Well, next year it's a year from now. We have to be out of the district office that we're currently in by June 30th, 2016. So we really want to try to get the footings and the shell before winter gets in, and that's kind of our first goal, is to get all the concrete finished, and then also make sure that there's roof above each of those different buildings before the snow flies.
And the bottom line is some savings there too, eventually.
There is, yeah, and for both of those offices, the entire project will save about $2 million with taxpayer money over the next 17 to 20 years. So it's a huge savings for our local taxpayers.
I did note this morning on our news that a record number of school districts are asking voters to increase their property taxes this year so they can construct new buildings. 66 at latest count.
Yeah, there are quite a few out there right now, and I just looked at that data too the other day. So it doesn't surprise me. So a lot of the facilities have been, I don't want to say neglected, but because of lack of funding with our deferred maintenance and our operating capital revenues, it's been pretty tough to keep up with some of those buildings. There was legislation passed just recently with regard to the deferred maintenance that will really help all school districts, including Faribault, significantly over the next 5-10 years. So that was good news for us last legislative session. It'll be a gradual phase in, but we could see another $500,000-$600,000 of revenue coming in to help support our buildings and grounds. So that's going to be significant in the next couple of years.
Greg Abbott with the Minnesota School Boards Association speculates that the reason why these districts are doing this is the authorization for all-day kindergarten.
That's another very good point. That's probably the primary reason, because of the all-day, everyday kindergarten. Most schools, as we all know, plan for a half-day or every other day kindergarten, including us. And we're not doing a facility study, we're doing a boundary study. And we're taking a look at some of the populations, in particular our 3 elementary schools. And a school like Jefferson is right now busting at the seams. We were originally built, just like everybody else, for half day, every other day, or whatever the kindergarten setup was when it started. But we are pretty tight in that room. So we have talked about adding classrooms and things like that in every elementary school. So we'll see how the study goes. It's mainly for boundaries, but that could lead into some ideas of construction too.
So when you say for boundaries, you mean that some students that are currently going to Jefferson may go to Lincoln, for example?
Correct. And because Jefferson right now seems to be, and we won't know the numbers until October, it's really hard to say until then, but Jefferson, for instance, has a lot of students enrolling in Jefferson, and Lincoln may not have as many kids as what they've had in the past, and so as a result we have class sizes higher. Actually, our kindergarten class ratios right now at Jefferson are about 22-1, and at Lincoln they're about 17-1. So it'd be nice to level those things out and try to figure out a way where we can systematically make it more fair for all the kids and all the parents and all the teachers.
And at kindergarten, this is just a guess on my part, you would probably want a lower student to teacher ratio, right?
Yeah, usually around 20 is an optimal range right now. Of course, if you get 19, 18, that's even better. But financially and practically, 20 is usually kind of the number that we're looking for.
So when we're talking about space at Jefferson, is there a way to get that space without actual construction?
Well, we're going to find that out. We're going to go through detail. In fact, we're starting that today. Each of the schools will give each of the principals a map of the building, and they'll write down what rooms. Well, they already know the rooms, but they'll tell us what they're used for, each of the rooms, because there's also program pieces. It's not just capacity. We can stuff 1,000 kids in there, but then that doesn't always make sense either, because you have different rooms for different things. So we'll take a look at the classrooms. We'll also put the number of kids in there. We'll put the number of teachers in there, the staff, and where all those programs are located in the buildings. And once we come with that data, we'll keep on getting and gathering the data as we need to check what the boundaries, and then one of the decisions could be that we just build on each of the buildings too, but who knows.
Did receive a text here from a listener who wanted to know if the new iPads are going to eliminate the need for books in libraries.
I don't think so. Not this early. I know that it enhances some of the books that we have. There is some research. That's a good question, because we are looking into checking out different books that are in the iPad. Not all books, first of all, are on the iPad.
Right.
It's not true that every single library book you can access electronically, because you can't. So I think libraries are going to be around for quite a while still with books. But the reading materials that are on the electronic devices, they have what's called a Lexile or an AR score on it, and you can actually match the level of the student with the reading material that you have online. So a student can progress at their own speed and their own pace, starting at their reading level, and once they accomplish that reading level, they can advance to the next Lexile or AR level at their own pace. And we've seen studies right now where kids are reading 3, 4, 5, 10 times the number of books that they've normally read just by going to the library. So it won't replace the library, because the research is still going to be there, but it certainly is going to enhance a lot of the things that we do have at the Media Center.
Those MCAs, the Minnesota Comprehensive Assessments, is that right?
Yes.
Those tests?
Yep.
Isn't reading where most districts are having a problem?
Yeah, I think it varies from district to district, and of course our scores are a little bit low. We don't want to have excuses, but the reality is we have a lot of kids that come here that don't speak English.
Right.
And so we are using a lot of the electronic programmings that are offered on the iPad to help enhance those reading skills and those reading scores. Interestingly enough, that we have learned, and data will show this, is that by teaching kids in their native language different concepts, both reading and math, they actually accelerate faster. So to have a person just learn English sometimes slows the actual learning process down. We want to also incorporate in their native language if possible, and some we can't, but if possible in their native language to help enhance that learning experience for them.
So, this just popped into my head. Obviously, typically you need interpreters if they don't speak English, but with an iPad, it could be your interpreter.
That's exactly right. And we have a lot of those things that we can translate directly into Somali, into Spanish. All those different things can be translated, especially the books. The books you pop up, many of the books that are written out there can be pulled up in that native language.
Ah, sounds good. I thought this was a great idea. I don't know if you'd heard, they're going to have math on a stick at the state fair this year.
Oh, that's cool. I got to go find that. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, it's a number scavenger hunt. Math on a stick. I love it. Great idea. Kids getting ready to go back to school, make them use their brains.
You bet, yeah.
So, anyway, I wanted to touch on a couple of other things. There was some information on Bring Me the News that said that kindergartners at Lincoln Elementary in Faribault are expected to bring more than 30 supplies totaling $70, it says.
Yeah, that's happened all over the place. That's the one good thing that we have in this community is that we have a lot of different nonprofits that help us with the backpacks, and they help us with a lot of those supplies. So we're hoping that if there are any issues with parents that cannot afford some of the supplies that we have that are required, not required, but we'd like to have our kids bring to school, that they'll let us know, and we'll look for those resources for them.
So you're telling me that's true?
Well, I have to look at it. I don't know for sure, Gordy. I'm not saying it's not true.
Right.
I just haven't looked into it. That I do know that statewide, a lot of those schools are asking for some more materials and supplies. And quite honestly, I would say that might be another one of those reasons why we should really examine those MCA tests, because we're so deep and heavy into the reading, the math, and all those other different things, that a lot of the practice materials go directly towards some of those test scores, those test skills, and maybe the supplies are I'm just throwing this out there, but maybe one of the reasons why we're needing so many supplies is to adapt to some of those different things.
I mean, there are districts that are requiring not just, you know, paper, pencil, crayons type things that we did when we were kids, but some schools, it says here, students are expected to bring disinfecting wipes, multiple boxes of tissues, printer paper, dry erase markers, for example.
Yeah, certainly those that don't have anything to do with the test scores, but
even socks to use as erasers on the whiteboards.
Yep, like I said, if there's any issues on that, none of those are required of our school district. They don't have to bring those, so if they can't find those, we'll always have alternate resources for them. So
when they say they are expected to bring, that's not accurate.
Well, I haven't seen that note, so if it hasn't gone through me, then it's not required.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. It seems like $70 is a lot.
For especially at a lower level, it seems like a lot of money too. Again, going back to whatever the resources are, because they'll post those probably at Walmart and at other area stores. If there are resources that the parents really think that their kids need, we're not going to deny any child of an education because they can't afford resources to
Well,
come
I
to
can
school.
tell you the last few years I have gone to store locally, bought school supplies for the backpack program. I live across from Lincoln Elementary School, and I never spent $70. I know that.
Right.
And I'd use the list that the school hands out for your, you know, third grade or whatever.
Yeah, I was trying to think if I spent $70 on my senior last year in high school. I don't think I spent even half that. So.
Yeah. Well, things have gone up a bit since then, Todd.
They have.
No offense, but they have. Todd Sesker is with us. He's the superintendent of the Faribault Public Schools. And also, I was telling you before we hit the airwaves, and I gave Colleen a call probably too late. It was about 9 this morning. Wondering if we get a number about the Faribault district, but you were telling me that you have the same issue. This Department of Education survey found 62% of school districts are dealing with a spike in meal debt.
Yeah, and that is true for Faribault too. We did see a spike last year. We almost doubled the amount of debt that we had from previous years. Now that could mean two things. Well, the positive piece, I go positive and negative. You look at every situation, try to be optimistic about it. Probably means that more kids are eating, which educationally, if you eliminate the financial pieces of it, means that we are getting kids eating, and that means that they're more ready to learn, and that's a good thing. Of course, the negative thing about that is that we have to pay for it. It ended up being about another $10,000 that we had to transfer from our general fund to the food service fund in order to balance it, because we always want to be balanced with that whole thing. There are a lot of reasons for that, but the one reason that we have that we're going to look into this year are the parents that don't have kids that are in free and reduced lunch are carrying a balance that is higher than, well, it's in the red. And we have to figure out a way where we can't really do anything about the free and reduced lunch folks, and that really hasn't changed from year to year. It's just that now we have parents that are not paying their food service bill that don't qualify for free and reduced lunch. So that means either they need to come in and fill a form out for free and reduced lunch, or we have to somehow collect that money.
So there's no way to get these people enrolled before school starts?
Well, for the free and reduced lunch folks.
For any school lunch?
Yeah, and for the regular lunch piece, that's always going to cost money no matter what. So that timing, if they don't qualify for free and reduced lunch, they should be paying their bill right away from day one.
Yeah.
And I would just encourage parents to do that. Put a dollar amount in the account right away.
Can you have it automatically withdrawn from your checking account or something?
We have electronic fee pay, and I think they actually have to go in there and pay the lunch amount. I'm not sure if fee pay allows for an auto deposit. I don't know if they can do that or not. They'd have to go in there and look at that themselves. But I do know electronically they can deposit money. But that is a problem for us, and we're going to take a look at it. We're going to be a little bit more aggressive on the emails and the follow-up phone calls this year, because $10,000 is $10,000, and we want to make sure parents pay that can afford it.
$10,000.
Yeah.
Now, to give you an example here, in Hennepin County, according to this, $160,000 in unpaid school lunches.
Yep, it's up all over the state. And as you recall, remember the reason why this occurred. We changed our policy last year, and although we were not dumping plates, a lot of school districts were doing that. When the kids would come to the front of the line, the person that was doing the checkout would look at their account and see that they were negative. And in different schools, not Faribault's, but different schools, they were telling the kids, you cannot eat, here's a peanut butter sandwich, and they dump their entire tray in the garbage. Now, that's the dilemma that the public is dealing with right now. Do you tell, because you cannot deny the kid through the line. You can't go in there beforehand and tell the kid that they don't have it. They have to wait till they get all the different food before they actually get the food, or before they actually get to the counter to pay. That's just the way it's structured. And so when they come to the line and they get the food dumped, that created it created a public outcry.
Yeah.
In fact, I know at least one superintendent that was fired because that's what their school was doing. So then they said, oh, we're going to stop doing that. And now as a result of policy changes, we're seeing this high debt. So the question would be, are people taking advantage of the system now? Or is it truly, I don't know what else to say, because parents should be responsible for their own accounts no matter what. The school can chase them down. We're going to call collections this year and do it on a couple of folks if they don't pay. But people need to be responsible for their own food service. And if their child is not on free and reduced lunch, then we expect them to pay.
Can I prepay for the whole year for my child? Now, we do know that there are certain days that they may not be in attendance and I need to get a credit back. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, that works. Yep, we do that. And yes, you may do that right away. You can pay up front and you pay for the entire year.
What does it cost one child, let's say a fifth grader?
It's about $2 a meal. Yeah, so it's pretty good. Breakfast is free for kindergartners, and breakfast is a little bit less. I'm not sure what the dollars are. It's right on the website. You can look it up.
Sure.
It's very
Those went
simplified.
up too, right?
Yeah, about a dime is all. We're still pretty low compared to the other Big 9 schools, but it was pretty, and that was a federal plan. That wasn't, we didn't do that. The feds told us we had to raise it. But it's really reasonable. It's a good breakfast. We have some really great alternatives this year. Our food service, Tim Cochran is running our food service program this year. We have done a ton of different things for the middle school and the high school. In the high school, we'll have espressos, and we'll have smoothies to increase the calcium for kids. We see a lot of kids don't get the right calcium amount, especially girls. 9 out of 10 girls don't get the right recommended amount of calcium, but if you have an espresso or smoothie, that seems to help take care of that.
They don't drink milk, huh?
No, they don't, unfortunately. And we're enhancing our program at the high school. Our food company hired a chef that has gone through Cordon Bleu. So we're doing a lot of good things for our food service that's going to make these meals great. And there's no reason for the kids not to eat at the school. It's very reasonably priced, it's nutritious, and they're getting some quality products. So.
Well, it's good to see that move, because I know there were some districts, not recently, but I get to a lot of schools doing games and whatnot. Some school districts in their lunchrooms actually had fast food restaurants.
Right,
you know, some fast food chains that were in the school.
Right, and we do not have that. So, and like I said, we've got a great program, and I would encourage anybody to come in and take a look at it. Call Tim Cochran at Food Service if you have questions about it.
And there's the catch-22 there again, Todd. I'm sure they did it, not because they wanted to do it, but because the school lunch, was in debt.
Yeah.
And kids weren't eating what they had, and so they brought these people in thinking they're not going to lose money on the program.
Right, and that's the positive piece of it. I don't know how, it's kind of a weird way of looking at it, but we've got some good stuff, and now the kids are eating, and that's a good thing. We want our kids to eat so they're ready to learn in school, but at the same time, maybe the downfall is because that we're not getting our accounts paid up. So encourage parents to pay for those accounts. It's not that much, and it's a lot of parents over a lot of different accounts. It's not one large dollar amount. It's just, $200 there, $300 there, that add up real quickly.
About a couple dollars a meal. You probably can't do that at home.
No, and you can't. I mean, if you go to a fast food, which I would not encourage people to do, although I do it every once in a while.
Sure, we all do.
Yep. It's a great price, and we're offering some pretty quality products. So.
But $10,000.
Yeah, I think it might have been a little bit more. I'm just quoting $10,000 to be conservative, but we were $10,000 above what we were last year in debt. So our total debt was about $17,000, I think, between 17 and 20. Gordy, I'd have to get the right numbers from Colleen, but it was significant.
Well, I mentioned to you before you hit the airways, I did give her a call this morning, but it's probably too late. She may not have gotten the message right away. As soon as I get the numbers, I'll certainly pass them along to our listeners, because I'm sure they're very curious, just as I was when I saw that. 66, what did I say? Majority of the 62% of districts dealing with a spike in meal debt.
Yeah, and all we're asking is the parents to pay the bill. If they can pay the bill, then we'll we'll reduce that amount real quickly.
We might want to contact the 38% who are not in debt. Find out what they're doing so that they're not.
That's a good question.
How do you collect, by the way? The Noka-Hennepin, you should hear this. See if I can find that. They have a automated call to a family weekly, and the student's account shows a negative balance of $5.
Yep, and we actually call them, we call our families too, and I take that back. For the elementary kids, we'll actually put a note in the backpack of the students to remind parents that this is overdue.
And the letter is sent when the account hits negative balance of $25 or more. The Child Nutrition Office, you have one of those?
We do not.
Starts calling when the account reaches a debt of $200.
That usually is probably the superintendent's office that ends up calling, but I haven't made any calls last year. And I asked him, I said maybe that'll be what we need to do next, is have the superintendent call a couple of these families, because that seems to help sometimes. I don't really want to go to collections. Collections cost money, number one, and you're not guaranteed you're going to get the money. But that might be the resort that we have.
Well, I just had an idea. I'm involved in a couple of organizations locally. I think some of them we're involved in together that could maybe step up and help with some of this too, do a fundraiser to help pay off some of the debt.
It is, and we've talked about having like an angel fund and something like that for our schools to try to help pay for those things. Again, these are not free and reduced kids that
Right.
we're really concerned about. These are parents that apparently are not, they don't qualify for free and reduced, so they should be able to afford these meals. Now, given the circumstances, I don't know what they are. If there are financial circumstances, then they should come in and fill a free and reduced lunch form. The other thing that occurs too is that these free and reduced lunch forms really help us financially, because we can take those forms and we get, actually the school district gets revenue back called compensatory revenue. And the compensatory revenue is based on the number of free and reduced forms that we get in of families that qualify. And that's a significant dollar amount that we receive as a result of that.
What percentage of students in the Faribault Public Schools are on free and reduced lunch?
In the elementary schools, we keep track pretty accurately. We're about 70%, 70% of our families that have kids going into elementary school they qualify for either a free lunch or a reduced lunch. Middle school is probably closer to 55-60, and at the high school it's probably 45-50. So, but those elementary kids, we really want you to fill that paperwork out.
All right, folks. I'm sure there may be a pride issue involved there too, but
there is. I think though, it's all good though. Everything about filling out the form is positive. The kids get to eat, you get a little bit of a price break, and the school district gets more revenue.
No, there you go. It's a win all the way around.
It is.
That concludes today's edition of AM Minnesota. Thanks to Todd Sesker for coming in today and being our guest.